Hi, I'm Prashant Tibrewal, an admissions coach, an edupreneur, and an MIT Sloan Fellows MBA. And today we are going to talk to IP Singh. IP is a recent admit to the Sloan Fellows program, and he's recently landed in the US, started the program, and we're going to go deep into how his approach to his application was and how a larger audience or a larger set of applicants can learn from his own experience. So welcome, IP. Good to see you again. I remember, how extensive the entire process of working on the application was and how hard you worked on it. So congratulations at the first place, and then congratulations again for actually being there at MIT. It must feel great. So welcome to the chat, and let's begin the conversation. Understand from your experience how you applied to the program and how you got in.
Hi, Prashant. Thank you so much for having me here. It's indeed an honor to be interacting with you and the larger audience. And I very passionately and empathetically look back to the times when we worked together. And I'm so grateful to you and your team for helping me get through this very important transition in life, something which happens very rarely to people like us who are on the slightly senior side. But your support and your coaching was tremendous help to me. And thank you so much. And I'm so looking forward to taking this discussion forward, Prashant.
Thanks, IP. So I remember the first sentence in your MIT cover letter, which said a distinguished military career spanning 3 continents and 23 years. Tell us more about your profile and at what point you felt the need to pursue a management program.
Prashant, I'm so happy you remember those first lines. I thought it's been such a long time. Yeah, so my calling to serve the country came very early in life, and I think we discussed this that I come from a military family. My father served the Indian Army and the nation for 38 long years, and he retired as a brigadier general. And all my life, I have grown in a military environment. So to follow his footsteps and join the army was something which came very naturally to me. And on joining the army in 1998 and then till 2022, when I took early retirement, it was an exceptional journey. It was a journey filled with a lot of adventure, a lot of learning, a lot of challenges, and something in which I have constantly grown from strength to strength. I was very lucky to come across some amazing leaders in my life. I had some great mentors who really showed me the way in the correct fashion. And I was very privileged to get very important and interesting assignments all my life. But traditionally, what happens is after some time, you start getting away from the operational part and you start getting more into the managerial side of the forces. And this was what was happening with me also in the last 4 to 5 years. And I had started feeling that I was missing out on challenge. I used to feel less challenged, I would say. And somehow I started feeling a bit stagnant in my life, and I wanted to do more. I wanted to do more with my life. As you mentioned in your statement, I have served in 3 continents. That is, of course, Asia. I have served in Africa also as a UN peacekeeper, and I have done an extensive long course in the US. So that really helped open my horizon and my understanding of the opportunities out there, interacting with very distinguished officers of different militaries across the world also gave me some more insight into what all lays ahead, what are the other options available. So I'd been thinking for some time that I should now try something different, get out of my comfort zone, which is a very big challenge for most of us. And luckily, the pandemic happened, and that gave me a lot of time to reflect and think about my situation in particular. And then I decided that if I have to do something, I must upskill myself. I started speaking to some friends and colleagues who had moved out from the army and who were in the corporate doing quite well for themselves. And across the board, the advice to upskill was something of a common connect between all of them. And I thought that if I have to upskill, I must be in an environment and a place which is most, I would say, most fulfilling in the sense of the word, where I can get everything together. And what I was looking for was global experience, I was looking for a multicultural environment. I was looking for a world-class faculty and resources, and all that could come to me only in an institution like the Sloan Fellows at MIT. And that is how my process started. And I'm happy that somewhere in this process I met you, and we could take this process ahead, and it is fructified. That's why today I'm sitting in Boston and interacting with you.
No,
So Prashant,
I must highlight that MIT claims to have students who are accomplished and humble. And listening to your story, one can clearly see, having accomplished so much, you're so humble, and you still wanted to do something bigger, and that got you here. So that's great to hear.
but Prashant, before we go ahead, and for the benefit of the audience, I also want to dip into your life. I mean, I remember you telling me you had 13 years of experience. You had two successful ventures under your belt. You had two more ventures running. They were in the pipeline. Yet you also decided to take a sabbatical for a year and come to Sloan. So what was some of your challenges, and can you tell us about your story?
Oh, sure. Like you said, there was a lot going on. I was engaged and excited at what was going on, but probably, the underlying reason behind all the people who come to MIT or the Sloan Fellows program specifically is the idea that they want to do something bigger. And for me, because there was so much going on, I realized that this was probably, we always blame COVID on certain things, but like you said, a partial reason for my thought on taking up a program like this was also COVID, because it was a time when I thought, okay, maybe I can take a step back and reassess what I'm doing. And then the program was always on my mind, because I come from this background. I have been coaching people on their applications. So I knew about the program. I thought sometime I would like to take it up when I'm ready. And this was the time when I thought, okay, maybe I can commit to a program which is full time, because with so much experience, and the average experience at the Sloan Fellows program is about 14-15 years. And with so much experience, it's difficult for anyone to just leave everything behind, take a break, commit to a full-time program, move all the way to US. So it was a difficult decision indeed, but the urge to create something bigger was important, and innovate beyond what I was doing was also the key reason behind it. And innovation and impact are two key focus areas at MIT, which I thought turned out to be really transformative and true to my expectations. So the kind of people I could collaborate with, the SFMBA class, you're there and you would be observing already. It's so super accomplished. And I was able to incubate one of my ventures at MIT and get mentored by VCs. So it was a power-packed year, and I would say transformative in its truest sense.
Yeah, I can't agree more.
And yeah, you will, I hope, go through a lot that you have planned in the coming year, and witness all that I have firsthand. So moving forward, it's a competitive program with just about 100 seats in the class. How extensive was the process of applying, and what were the steps you followed? How much time did it take overall, just to give an idea to someone who has probably just started thinking of applying?
So that's a very relevant question, Prashant, and this is something I think which needs to go out, that everyone will have a different process. People will have different timelines, but to standardize it a bit, I can say that I took about 7 to 8 months, only because we were in a time when the second wave hit, and I had some work related requirements also. So there were times when I would get derailed in my preparation, but I would still try to get back to it. But if you take an average timeline, I think 5 to 6 months is something which is something which is doable without stretching yourself too much, and especially if you are in a regular job also. And like it happens in the military and in a lot of professions, we like to make a plan, we try to stick to that plan, but we also work on contingencies concurrently. So I started my preparation somewhere in the month of February of 21. And as you know, March, again, we were hit by the second wave. So March and April again brought in a bit of instability. I again got back to my preparation in April. And finally, I think it was in September mid that I could give the exam. And then concurrently, I was working with you on the application. So if I was to put out a plan for people who are trying to look for one, I would say that there are two important aspects. One is your exam, whether you're giving the GMAT or the GRE or the executive assessment, which I preferred. And the second important aspect is the application. So there will be times when you will be focusing only on one, and then there will be time when there will be an overlap. So how it happened for me, I started my I started my GMAT preparation in the month of February, and somewhere around April, May, I realized that I need to give the EA and not the GMAT. That was not much of a turbulence because the syllabus was the same and many things were common. And sometime in the month of April, May was the time when I started thinking about the application process. I started researching, and that is probably when I got in touch with you also. So from May till May and June beginning till October was the time frame when both the processes were running concurrently. So one had to manage his time accordingly, have areas and times when you had to focus on one and not the both and not both of them. And as soon as I finished my exam, the very next day onwards, I think we started full time working on the application. So I think for most of us, this is how it will roll out. Until and unless there are people who have already got a score with them in their pocket and they're really not worried about that. So they can focus on the application at least for 2 to 3 months, which would be a very reasonable time frame to come up with a very strong application package. One more thing that I thought I must highlight here is the aptitude test, whichever you decide to give, will also consume a lot of energy and resources. So try and finish it off as early as possible and leave yourself enough time for the application, because application itself will draw a lot of energy out of you. It will expect you to introspect a lot more. It will involve a lot of man-hours to sit and write, introspect, read, discuss with your coach, and keep improving your application. So it is preferable that we deconflict both these things and try to have minimum overlap. So that's what I think, Prashant.
Right, that makes sense. And I think you highlighted a few points very well. One, how important it is to have that vision early enough so that one is able to commit that extended period of time, because it's a slow process. You cannot just sit for 24 hours for a week and complete it. So there's a lot of introspection, there's a lot of research that has to go behind it. And then how you prepared for your aptitude test along with your application. So sometimes it doesn't work out that you have the right time to prepare for the test. But then I would think that it's also important to start the application on time. So don't delay your application just because you have not taken the test. So in your case, you did plan it early. You started with GMAT, and then you have to shift it to EA. And this is an interesting perspective, because a lot of candidates come and ask me if the GMAT is preferred over the EA, and actually it is not, because you took the EA, you got in, and it's more about proving your aptitude or capability, and it could be through GMAT, it could be through the executive assessment. But then you prepared for the EA, and most applicants do not find enough and right material to prepare for the EA, since it's a new test out there in the market. So tell us more about your preparation strategy and the resources that you used.
Prashant, so when I started with my preparation for the aptitude test, I was only looking at GMAT, and I had started taking online coaching from an institute because I thought I should take help with my work commitments. Also, I was not able to take that much of time, and I really didn't want to start right from the nuts and bolts. I wanted to start from a level a little higher where I could quickly get into the game. And after about 2-3 months of doing my research concurrently with the preparation, I stumbled upon the EA exam accidentally. It was not something that was on my mind. And when I started doing the research, and I realized that most of the schools that I was targeting all are accepting the EA scores. I did a bit of a comparison between the syllabus of EA and GMAT. I found that it was almost the same. It was just a couple of topics which were less in EA. The better part about EA was that the exam is a bit shorter. It's not as long as the GMAT. And there was also an additional vertical which was important, was the IR, that is integrated reasoning, which is not that important in GMAT, but it was quite important here. And I found that quite interesting. So I quickly transitioned from the GMAT to the EA. And specifically for the IR, there is no institute that I could come across who was giving dedicated coaching for IR, while quant and verbal was something which was being taught by everyone. So there are two resources I found quite helpful. One was the GMAT official material that is there on their website for EA preparation. That is very good for IR. And if you start about 1 or 2 months before the exam to start working on those questions and start solving them, that is a tremendous resource to be exploited. And of course, there are a lot of YouTube videos by some very good coaches who do talk about techniques and strategies to crack the EA. I think one should go through those also. So given those two resources, I was very comfortable. And to those people who are still confused, I would say that shortlist your schools first and see if majority of them are accepting EA, then you should definitely go for an EA. If you are still not decided and you think that's not the case, then for you, GMAT is the best bet.
Right. And it's great. I mean, again, like you said, you started with GMAT, and then when you move to EA preparation, then it's a new test, and the number of takers is also not very high because it's a very specific test, generally designed for executive programs. So it is difficult to find good material, but the official material is certainly interesting. And then how you talked about how one can leverage a lot of GMAT material to the EA preparation as well. Good. So that was about your test, and we know that you applied with a military background to MIT. So let's talk more about how you approached your application and what were your key focus areas.
Yeah. So Prashant, it's very important for people coming from a background like mine to understand that we are not the traditional candidates for a business school. We come from a slightly unique background, and therefore early on in the application process, each one of us must do his own SWOT analysis. We must identify what are our strengths and especially what are our weaknesses. And once you have a list of weaknesses, it is a good time to start early on in the application process to start addressing those. Now, we have extensive experience. We have done a lot of things in life which are quite relevant in the corporate world on the managerial side also. However, we tend to take them for granted. We tend to think that probably this is not as significant as it may sound. But that is where most of us falter by missing out some very important aspects of a profile. So it's very important to understand and package your entire experience into the application in such a way that everything and anything that you've done is meaningfully utilized in your process. It is reflected in a way which is appealing to the admissions committee. And one thing that I would say is, I felt challenged when I was thinking of what I'm going to do next. And that is an area where I must share that it was you who really showed me the way. You were the guiding beacon. We had these extensive discussions about my interests, my experiences, and I'm grateful that you could guide me and direct me in the right direction. You could throw some ideas, you could throw some pointers which helped me do my research better, and I was able to crystallize my plan very well. So I think again, that's the importance of having someone to support you, and I'm very grateful at that. So that really connected my past, present, and future context. That gave a lot of value to my application, and if I had not done that, probably my application would have been very open-ended. And again, coming from a non-traditional background, you also have to understand what is the landscape of the corporate world, and who are the people who are going to be with you in the class, what kind of backgrounds are they going to come from. So that will come with your research, and it will also come with your extensive discussions with your coach, who will throw in a lot of insight out of his own experiences. And in my case, I was so lucky to have you.
No, thanks for your appreciation, but I must admit you were among the smartest candidates I have worked with, and like you highlighted, there's so many things that you do even in the military that relate with the corporate world, and you just have to know that. But with all this knowledge and all this experience, I'm curious, why did you still decide to work with an application coach to begin with? And how did your perspective change through the brainstorming sessions that we had?
So, Prashant, I would look at it in a very different manner. You see, every top athlete or sports person is as good as the coach he has or the support team which is there to support him. I mean, he cannot become world number one by just being on his own. So, I looked at my application in a similar manner. While I'd done a lot in my life, I had achieved some very important milestones in my professional career. But going ahead, I was looking for a coach, a mentor who could help me now transform this entire experience into something which was appealing to the admissions committee, and then later on also as I finish my program and I start pursuing my second career. And that is where I think you came in, and I look at you more as my coach and not as my people would say admissions consultant or whatever terminology they want to use. But for me, I think you are my coach, you are my mentor, and I'm not one of those who was very stuck up with age that I can only learn from someone who's elder to me. I think I have learned so much from you in those for 3-4 months that we interacted very closely on my admissions process. And to those who are still contemplating whether they need help or they do not need help, it is very important to understand that we all are very smart people, there is no doubt. But to work with someone who has a professional background in doing this kind of a work, who has so much of experience, will definitely set your application apart from so many others who are applying. You are only increasing your probability of getting in, your chances of getting in. And do remember that you are not going to do this again and again every year. You're going to hit this point in life maybe just once or twice. So it's better that you put in everything in the first go. You make this the best chance that you have. And for that, I think someone to guide and mentor is extremely important. And along this process, I think I've not only learned about what my application should be, I've also become much wiser on the entire process, the entire approach that goes into the admissions for a business school. And I think that I would definitely compliment Prashant for his support and his guidance. And the entire 3 to 4 months that we worked together, I was able to visualize the end state. I was able to constantly evolve my application. I think we had about 6 to 7 iterations. I still have all those documents in my folder from the first draft till the sixth or seventh draft, which was actually sent to the school. And sometimes when I pick up both of them, I realize that there is so much of change and there is so much of value in the last product that we finalized and we sent it to the school. So I think I've personally become much wiser about the entire process having worked with you, Prashant.
Thanks, IP. The feeling is mutual. I would say I have become wiser as well, learned so much from you, all that you have done and how you could think of such awesome stories and come up with the great things that you have done, how we can relate it with a management degree and the corporate world. So thanks for that. And thanks for associating with me. I got a friend more than an
Prashant,
applicant.
before we go ahead, I can't resist asking you also something. You see, you have been in the education technology sector for so long, and you also went for the same program a few years before me. So, how did the program really transform you? Since they say that the Sloan Fellows is a very transformational program, how has your approach evolved after the program vis-a-vis what it was before?
Right. So, like I said, my focus was innovation and impact when I took up the program, and being mentored by VCs, being mentored by some super smart people, right from the faculty to even my own classmates at the program. I think the way I think about a problem has transformed immensely. And then, if I have to put it in the context of mentoring applicants to the program, For starters, I can claim to be an insider now because I've experienced everything. I know more about the program, what they mean when they say principal leadership, what the programs are, what the programs and the different concentrations are about, the different electives, the opportunities. There is a lot that I am able to relate with versus a website that everyone would refer to. But the biggest difference is how I'm able to help my applicants relate their own experiences with innovation and impact. Because all of us, like you said, all the people who apply to a program like this are smart. They have done good things in their life. But the idea of relating it with innovation and impact, which are the two pillars of what MIT stands for and always has always stood for, is super important. And if one is, I mean, you may have done great things, but if you're not able to demonstrate how you are able to, or how you're looking to leverage the innovation ecosystem at MIT, and how you're looking to create an impact in your own life, in your ecosystem, in your industry, in your society, then it is not the right program for you. It is not the best program for you. And that's something that I'm able to educate my applicants about. And then, of course, one of the aspects where you have so much to say with so much experience, and then knowing the program, knowing what the program can give you at the end of the year. I'm also able to present the right perspective to applicants so that they are able to take a more informed decision. So I think having experienced the entire program now puts me in a very good position to share experiences that I have had, and the forward-looking perspective that an applicant should normally have.
That's great, Prashant. And let me confess something to you, Prashant. When I was looking at people to take help from, especially for my application process, this is something which really stood out in your profile, and I felt that working with someone who's already been to this program, who's gone through not only the admissions process but has been through the entire 1 year program and is now here ready to help, would definitely add a lot of value to me and give me better and best insight into this program. So probably that is something which really tilted the balance in your favor then, and I'm so grateful that I took that decision then back there.
Thank you. Good. So moving on, you reached the US last week and completed your orientation recently. So tell us more about the cohort this year. I'm curious, how is the class this year, and what's the one thing that you're really looking forward to as the program starts?
Yeah, Prashant, it's such a great feeling to be here. And I wouldn't say that I'm in the US for the first time. This is my second time. I've done a program earlier also for a year, but this time it feels a lot different. The energy in the classroom is unimaginable. The amount of experience, the amount of accomplishments that come together in a classroom with 113 participants from 31 countries. The average age is about 40 and average experience is 15. You can imagine so much of energy, so much of ideas, so much of innovation happening on the go, and every day one is learning so much. Especially the orientation was such a great icebreaker. The school really puts together a very interesting and a very energizing orientation program. We just finished it yesterday, and every day one gets to meet such smart people in the cohort, and sometimes you realize if you really deserve to be here, but then yes, at the end of the day you realize that yeah, you've done enough and worked hard to be here and you deserve it. One thing that I'm looking forward as the program starts is to dip into the experiences and learnings of my cohort. Uh, People are coming from such rich and diverse backgrounds with so much of experience. Even if every day I can sit with one person and learn about his life, his stories, his adventures, his accomplishments, his pitfalls, his failures, I think that is going to be the biggest learning or the biggest takeaway for me from this program. 113 people, 113 experiences, 113 stories. just imagine how wiser I'm going to get just by listening to these people, and that is something I'm really looking forward to.
Right. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, I remember how every person I met, I was so impressed with their story, and there's something there's something in the class, there's something in the cohort where you will get that opportunity to connect better. And then there is one component called the muddy talks. And muddy talks is something they will start soon, where one actually gets to open up to their classmates and not just share their story, but develop that extra bonding which allows for the extra learning that is required or that is expected of a cohort like this.
True, very true. Even I'm looking forward to the muddy talk. It starts soon. I think mid of June is the first day which has been scheduled. So yeah, even I'm looking forward to that. Thanks, Prashant, for bringing that up.
Right. Good. And on that note, just to add, not just the muddy talks, but you'd certainly enjoy a lot interacting individually, like you said, with 113 people, if not 113. Even if you could do that with half the cohort, it'll be such an experience. I remember how some of my classmates would just ring me up or drop me a message saying, "Hey, we haven't had time to catch up one-on-one, and and Tate is the bakery very close to the Sloan Fellows, the Sloan building, and that was the usual hangout place or breakfast place for many. And it was so surprising for me that people are just calling up and saying, let's have breakfast on a Sunday morning, spend an hour together, and know each other better. And when I talked to these people, and when I understood their stories, I was amazed at how they have done such great things, and still they are here. For example, there were students in the class. One of them had a Harvard Masters already, and I remember there were a few more who had a Harvard Masters already. There were other classmates who, one of them had acquired another company recently. Another one is a senator from Colombia. So knowing these people, and not just through these formal channels, but even for me, the most enjoyable were the house parties that were hosted, and they had such personal touch that you would just forget that you are in a professional MBA program. You just become so close friends that you take away. I mean, probably that becomes your biggest takeaway from the program, where you take away friendships that are going to last forever. And then of course it's not just an experience for you, but it's also for your family, if you have a family. So my wife and my son, I would think, enjoyed more than I did. They when we were studying, their focus was completely on having the best time of their lives in Boston or in the US. So my wife remembers those days so fondly, and she made some very good friends, and so did my son. So I think it was overall an experience that I would never forget in my life. It was transformational to a huge extent. So yes, it's nostalgic when I see you there, and I'm excited that you are going to go through all that. Good. So it was a good conversation. You had some very kind words for me. Thanks for that. And like I said, we had a great time working with you. Before we wrap up our conversation, what would you say is your biggest advice to future applicants to the MIT Sloan Fellows program?
Oh, Prashant, now that this dream is turning into reality, I think there are two things I really want to throw out to the larger audience. First is it's never too late. Uh, Life has got so much to offer, so never think that I've done enough. Please remember that we are all always a work in progress, and we can keep improving upon ourselves, whether professionally or personally. So that is my first piece of advice. And second, I would say that do not shy away from asking for help. And I would say that because in our work life and personal life, we have accomplished so much. But to put all that together in an application which is bounded by certain word limits, where you need to put across certain very important information for the admissions team to understand what you're getting to the cohort or to the class, you will need help. And it would be best to go with someone who has experience. I'm not here to market someone, but I'm only here to tell you that what worked best for me will also work for you if you take it from the coach and mentor perspective and not just from a consultant perspective. Someone who has experience in this will help you shape your experience into an application which highlights your strengths, and it also kind of helps you hide some of your weaknesses which may not be relevant at this stage for the application process to get into a good school. So therefore, I think it's important that you think about this aspect as you think of going to one of the best business schools in the world.
Oh yes, I am really looking forward to visiting Boston and probably partying with you, at Shybird, which you are going to know soon how important it is to MITians. But great, thanks for the candid conversation, and look forward to meeting you soon.
Thank you so much, Prashant. Have a
Bye
great
bye.
day.
Bye.
Thanks.